Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another special presentation of the SWBL podcast. My name is Sam Skibbe, Commissioner of the SWBL, and I am pleased to be joined for our next Captain's Interview series with the SWBL Rockies. In the past, we have always done these captain interviews on paper via email, and we thought we would change it up this year for season 19, doing a little podcast. Some teams we have one person on, some teams we have two, and today I'm pleased to be joined by two of the SWBL Rockies. First, we'll start with the captain and two-time MVP of the SWBL, Mr. Blake Spencer. Blake, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And also, not the captain on paper for the Rockies, but somewhat of a captain when it comes to, making some lineups here and there when the statisticians need it and, some on-field help for Blake as well. So Brian Kenney, the quote unquote assistant captain of the SWBL Rockies. Brian, thanks for joining us as well.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And guys, let's talk about the Rockies of the past. I mean, the one claim to fame for the Rockies has got to be you are a perennial playoff team. You guys are the only team in the franchise era that have been not only around the entire time, but also have made the playoffs in every single year of the franchise era. And it's a big claim to fame for you guys. Last year, you guys finished with a 6-4 record, your lowest since 2017. And also you've never gone below 6-4. You're the only team that's never had a 500 or below record. So it's a pretty astonishing feat for you guys. And, it's exciting to see your division this year. It's going to be a tough division to go through, but let's talk about last year first. And Blake, I'll start with you. When you guys look at that last year's playoff game against the Expos, and famously, that last out kind of went through the hands of Brita out in center field, and it could have been game over and you guys win, and all of a sudden it's just like 2 runs score on that play and it's just over before you knew what hit you. So Blake, what was kind of the mindset of the team after that loss? Were you guys upset? It just throw your hands up and say that's how wiffle goes sometimes? Like, what was the mindset of the team afterwards?
Yeah, that was undoubtedly pretty tough for us. It had been a long weekend, playing it all weekend and just fighting through each game. And then right when that happens, it kind of sinks a hole in your heart for a bit. But
sure.
I think we're proud of our season overall. And, you can't dwell on it too much, especially for Brita's sake, because of course he felt awful and
sure
he had an amazing tournament for us, so nobody was down on him about it. But it's just one of those things that we kind of slipped off pretty quick, and pretty proud of ourselves for it.
Yeah, you definitely should be proud again. And Brian, your guys' team took a hit last year, obviously losing not only your ace in Brett Spencer, Blake's brother, but also not having Grant Boyd in attendance as well. And what does it mean to get Grant back this year in your roster? Like, what does it mean for the heart of your team? Grant's been around with you two forever, even before Brita joined the team. Like, what's it mean to get Grant Boyd back in this 2021 season?
It's huge. He's probably one of the most underrated guys in the league, constantly has like a 600 on base average. He's just consistent wherever we bat him, first, second, third, fourth. Having him back, it's going to be huge. I think I kind of let the team down a bit at the plate last year, and having another guy who's going to have a over 500 on base average takes some pressure off me. And, it's nothing but good news to have him back.
Definitely. And we all missed Grant last year, not having him there, but it's going to be exciting to have him back for you guys in season 19 and to see what you guys can do, because you four have won a championship before together. So to see the 4 core of the Rockies come back is going to be awesome for season 19 for you guys. And Blake, we'll move back to you, and I'll talk to you first. You guys recently had the draft going on, and you guys drafted Chad Young to add to your roster this year, and Mike Patterson will not be returning with you guys. So you guys are going to roll 5 deep with your roster. And with Chad Young, like what's the plan with Chad? What's gonna be his strength adding to the team? Is it just kind of like, he's going to get some chances in garbage situations, or is this going to be an opportunity for him to kind of show you guys what he can do and maybe have a spot on this franchise in the future? What's the plan with Chad?
There's definitely a huge question mark with him, considering I've never seen him play, but he's been an unofficial Rocky for the past few years.
Yes.
He's he's great for our team. He's kind of a ball of light and joy, that Chad. So we like having him around, and I know he's had a history of pitching, and I think he's been practicing in the off season. So I'm pretty excited to see how he can do on the mound.
Yeah.
But besides that, we'll see how it goes and his abilities. And yeah,
that's exciting. And Brian, you are the reigning platinum hands winner again. Took the award back again this year, and you are a former national fielder of the year. You've had many accolades and many things going on the field, and you don't pitch for your team, but you've seen firsthand your pitchers, and you've always been in left field for your pitchers. But talk about your pitching staff this year, and is it going to be the same? Breida and Blake taking the bulk of it. What's Chad's role in the pitching staff? Or is Grant going to get some innings? Because Grant has had a good history of pitching as well. He's had a season where he's been up there with more than 3 wins, and getting more than 3 wins in any season is a really good feat for any pitcher. So for him to have multiple seasons where he's had more than 3 or more wins, that's a big deal to get Grant back as well. Is your depth more than people think, or what's going to be kind of the Rockies' claim to fame on the mound this year?
Yeah, I would anticipate Blake being our ace. I think he really stepped up last year, and no one really knew what to expect from our pitching staff last year. Kind of same as this year as we're going in. But Blake, he kind of upped his velo a little bit, was right on the edge, right where he needs to be successful. And I think he's good enough to be an ace on any team, and certainly for ours. And then I would expect Chad to be our number 2. Honestly, though, we've never really seen him. We've seen some videos of him practicing. It seems like he's going to be good. He's got some baseball pedigree. He was a pitcher in high school and college, so doesn't always translate. Hope it does. But that's why we have Breida to come in and throw some pretty average knuckleballs and see what happens.
And it might be the best thing too, because I would assume, you guys haven't said this, but I would assume that means Breida's going to stay in right field for you guys as much as possible too. And I think some teams are pretty successful. They find success when their left fielder and their right fielder stay consistent, and not many teams can do that, because there's a lot of teams that have their pitchers moving to left or right field a lot of times. So if you guys can get to a point where Chad can step up and be that number 2, I think that would be a huge addition for your team for sure. So
yeah.
Blake, I'll come back to you and we'll ask a question about the schedule that got released recently. And, when you look at your schedule, we have 10 games on the schedule, and the way it worked out this year, unfortunately, is, I asked both teams if this was okay, you guys in the Expos, but the very first 2 games on your schedule are both against the Expos. Opening day on Friday, and then Saturday as well. You guys have both games against the Expos. So Blake, what's the thought process behind the schedule? Is there a game on your schedule that you circle as the captain as this is a must win? Is it one of those games against the Expos? Is it a different game that's important? Who do you think is going to be one of your important games this year?
So this season's definitely interesting, because you look at the divisions, and we can break our season into 2 seasons. We have our division season and then the playoff season, if we were to get there.
Yeah.
The division season, Astros and Expos, it's tough. It's a tough field. So winning the division will be a mini championship in that regards.
Sure.
And the number 1 game, of course, who knocked us out last year, the Expos, it is definitely an odd combo schedule to where those are our 2 most important games. That's going to make or break our season. And if we get 2 W's under our belt,
huge,
and get a little loose going in the tournament, those would be huge. But if we go 0-2, tighten up, and it could be shaky to the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, this could really make or break, an Expos or a Rockies season. If you guys go 2-0, like you said, Blake, like you're rolling. Like you don't have to worry about Jimmy or Brett on the mound for the rest of the season. You can settle in. You can find your stride heading into the playoffs. Like that's huge. Even if you guys split with the Expos, you got to believe both teams are going to see that as a win. The only time it's going to be like a defeating time is when it would go 0-2. And so, it's an interesting way the schedule worked out. And that's just, based on restrictions and things like that too, and how it worked out. It's the way it crumbled. And this year but it's going to be an exciting thing. Both those games are definitely going to be starred as people want to watch that game. Must watch wiffle ball for sure between the Expos and the Rockies, and that, Spencer versus Spencer rivalry too, that they got going on too. But, Brian, I'll go back to you with this next question also. And, you know, you look at your roster and we've broken down your roster. We've talked about your team and, you know, I'm going to actually challenge you a little bit here. And, you know, you guys are going to be in a little challenge, but Blake and Brian, you can't use your names. Okay, Brian, you can't say Blake.
Okay.
You can't say Brian. So you have Kyle, you have Chad, and you have Grant. And I'm going to give you 3 options of where to put these 3. And I want you to place them in the right spots. And here I'm maybe not right spots, but I've done this to every captain, put them on the spot. You know, it's no hard feelings to these 3 players. You're just, you know, it's have a little fun with it. You know, I'll give you some examples of what people have done, but I want you to trade one of them. I want you to bench one of them, and you can only start one of them. So if you can only start one of those 3, who's it going to be? Who are you going to bench? Who are you going to trade? As an example, when I did this with my brother for the Royals, he traded me because he thought that he could trade me for maybe Brett, and then I don't have to keep losing games on the mound in the playoffs. So he would trade me right before playoffs to get Brett. So, you know, that kind of thing. So trade, bench, and start those 3 players. You can't say Blake, can't say Brian.
All right. I'm going to start Kyle because he was the best. Well, I don't know if he was the best. He seemed like he was the best Rocky in season 18.
Okay.
So you got to give him some accolades for that. I'm going to bench Grant because, you know, he's part of the core 4. I can't trade him. And he's my brother-in-law, but he has not established himself in the league yet. And he hasn't, you know, put on a Rockies jersey. So I'm going to have to trade Mr. Chad.
Yeah, got to get some for him. Even if, you know, a couple beers for you and Blake to share. You got to get some trade for him. All right. So
he'd be a great addition to any team.
Sure. And I love it. And I can't wait to see him play too. You know, we talked about the draft and, you know, maybe Brian, you can stick with this question as well. And I know he's your brother-in-law is Chad, but, you know, the rookies in this year's draft, you got to believe the rookie of the year race kind of goes through the Athletics. I mean, they drafted 3 rookies and they're going to see some playing time because they're a rebuilding franchise. You know, they have Alex Heck, Steve Hayes, and Paul Castellano are obviously on there as the core team, but you got to believe they're going to give playing time to those 3 rookies and moving them around. But, and a lot of people are saying, you know, it kind of goes through the Athletics to get the rookie of the year, but do you think Chad has an opportunity to get enough at bats, maybe some pitching innings for you guys to be considered for the rookie of the year race this year? And then hopefully establish himself on your guys' team or another team in the future?
Yeah, I don't anticipate him getting too many at bats. He's had 2 ACL surgeries, and that's kind of a concern. But I think, you know, there's the possibility that he comes in and he's, you know, our ace even over Blake, which would be great. And he's pitching, you know, whatever the max innings is, 35, and you know, he's in the Cy Young or Cy Wiffle race. And then, that's
in the rookie. Yeah.
That's enough to win a rookie of the year, I would imagine. So
definitely.
And if he makes at this point, we don't really know if he's going to bring that, but that's what we're hoping for. And then if that's the case, great for the Rockies.
Awesome. I love that. And, you know, it's going to be exciting. You know, every year I always think before the draft, like, who is going to be the rookie that sticks out this year? I never think that there's going to be somebody that makes that impact. And to be honest, I'm glad we're talking about Chad now and getting him this airtime, because I think it's exciting to see what he can do on the mound for you guys and maybe establish himself that way for your guys' team. So that's exciting. It's going to be an exciting rookie of the year race for sure. We want to thank our newest SWBL sponsor, guys, before we move on any further, talking about all of these different, roster breakdowns and everything like that. We want to thank Logix INC. Logix simplifies logistics when you need freight moved with reliability. You can visit them at logixinc.com, and they are our newest media sponsor and part of our SWBL sponsorship family. So thank you, Logix, for joining us this year for season 19. You know, Blake, you mentioned your division a while ago, and obviously your division, the Glendale, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram division. And like you said, it is definitely going to be the most exciting division in season 19. You know, we talked about the Expos, Rockies, you know, kind of rivalry going on, and those are the important games in your schedule. But let's move on to the Astros team. This team is, you know, you could arguably say they are the most improved team from last year to this year. Brian Benware doing some great GM work and getting John Callaway over from the Yankees to join their roster. And Brian has already said, you know, him and Jeremy Worrell taking a back seat on the roster to give the rest of their team, you know, those at-bats and those innings pitched that are needed. And you got to say that this is going to be an improved team that could also make a run in that division possibly too. You've had a lot of success against the Astros in the past, but with John Callaway, Keaton Adams, Cam Smith, and Cole Layton at the plate, and then you have David Olderman also returning for the Astros on the mound to complement Cam as their ace. That's a good team, Blake. Talk about the Astros, and you got to play them twice this year. Were you guys a little upset that that was your third team in your division tier? Like, talk about the thought process after the division draw.
Yeah, absolutely. They're by far the best top 3 tier that we can.
Yeah, for sure.
Last year, I can't remember how we did versus them. I know there was one ultra close game, and I think both of them, I don't remember if we played them. I think maybe once, but I can't even remember if we won. But they were tough. Cam Smith on the mound.
Yeah.
Top tier player of the league, pitcher, hitter. If I were to bet on the game right now, I'm thinking it's a coin flip. They're going to be ultra tough, top tier, and I have nothing more to say about that.
Yeah, and Brian, those 3 teams, a lot of people are saying that it could be one team only that comes out of that division. And when you think about it, you have the defending champions, you have you guys who have never missed a playoff spot, and then you also have the Astros, who are the most improved team, arguably, from last season. So people are saying you guys could all beat up on each other. And if anybody loses a certain amount of interleague games, you could only get the division winner only from that league, from that division that can move on to the playoffs. Or people are saying it could be, if we beat up on each other, but these 3 teams have a very good opportunity to sweep the rest of the other divisions, and you guys could all 3 make it. So like, what do you think of the Rockies' chances in this division? Do you guys think you are the title contenders, even though the Expos have, recently won? Or, do you think all 3 will get it? Do you think one will get it? What's your thought process on your division?
Yeah, I really think it's a complete coin flip between 3 teams. I don't think one team should be favored over any of the others, even though the Expos, they got who I think is the best player in the league, and Jimmy, and they're the defending champs, obviously. I would say they could finish in last place just as easily as the Astros could finish in first. So, it's a tough division, a tough draw, but, we've have tough circumstances before, and we always seem to make the playoffs. So,
yeah. And that's
gotta assume it's going to happen again.
Best thing about the Rockies history is, you guys have never missed the playoffs, and this is the 10th year of the franchise era. So you guys could be the first team that has 10 playoff appearances from any team if you make it again in 2021. All right, guys. And we want to thank all of our division sponsors as well. Cardinal Blinds and Shutters, Kenney Eye Center, who I just went to the other day to get my eyes checked. And I'm super excited. I'm going to be getting Sport Rec goggles this year for the SWBL. Super excited about that. And then also your division, Glendale, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. So we want to thank all of our division sponsors as well. Thank you guys so much for breaking down your division and your roster. Let's move on to our next segment. And this next segment, guys, is a rapid fire round. And what better way to cool off after a rapid fire round than with a frozen custard from Andy's Frozen Custard, one of our great sponsors for the SWBL, back again this year for our sponsorship family. So the 10 rapid fire round questions brought to you by Andy's Frozen Custard. Blake, I'm actually going to have you answer first every time after a question. And actually, I take that back, Blake. We're going to have Brian answer first because I know you have to unmute and things back and forth. So we'll have Brian answer first, and then you'll finish us up. That way you can just unmute and mute back and forth as second. So Brian, you will go first for us every single time. Blake, if you have the same answer as Brian, no big deal. And these are rapid fire rounds. So make sure, guys, you're doing a short answer. If you want to explain it a little bit, maybe keep it to a short phrase or a sentence, but let the viewers do the thinking in their head. Why did Brian and Blake pick this specific answer to these questions? So here we go. Brian, are you ready for your first question? Blake, you ready for the first question?
Yes.
Here we go. First question, guys, is a little easy one for you to get you started. But what is your favorite snack to have during SWBL weekend? Brian.
Ooh, is Taco Bell a snack?
Sure. Well, okay, we can do, lunch, place to eat, snack, whatever you would like.
Quick drive down to Taco Bell and bring it back, eat on the field.
All right, very good.
Better.
Blake?
Freeze Pops.
Yes, Blake coming in clutch with the historical answer. Love it. All right, next question. Who has the best uniform in the history of the SWBL? Brian, what uniform sticks out with you?
Shirtless Scott Pulley.
Shirtless Scott. All right, and Blake?
I like the Expos get up. I like the Shantytown is awesome.
The tie-dye with the Shantytown. Yeah, indeed. That's definitely a staple right now in the SWBL weekend for sure. All right. Who has the best SWBL rivalry? It could be current or past. What was the best rivalry? BK?
I think it's right now Rockies Expos.
Blake?
Current, I would say Rockies Expos. Past, Brewers Rockies.
I was gonna say that's been a popular one. The Brewers Rockies has always been one. You know, you guys were perennial contenders in the National League when we had the two divisions. So yeah, definitely Brewers Rockies is the big one that people are saying too. All right, who will be the 2021 SWBL home run leader?
Corey McCarthy.
Wow, nice pick. Blake?
Spencer Bogad.
Spencer Bogad again, back-to-back MVP, coming back at it this year. Who will have the lowest ERA in season 19, BK?
Myself with 0. No, Jimmy.
Not eligible, but yes, I get you. Blake?
Jimmy.
Been another popular answer for sure. Who will be the Rockies team MVP for any reason?
Grant Boyd.
Kyle Brita.
Love it. 2 different answers. That means it's going to be big years for Grant Boyd and Kyle Brita. If you could trade for any player in the SWBL, who would it be, Brian?
Peter.
Like?
Yes.
Actually, that came up on my mind, but I'm going to go with Cam Smith.
Wow. I like both those answers. I think both of them would fit well in your guys' teams too. All right. So if you could now draft any non-baseball professional athlete, who would it be to the Rockies? Who would fit in well with the Rockies? Or, you know, specifically it could be skill wise, but it can't be any baseball, non-professional or non-baseball professional athlete. Okay.
Dustin Johnson.
All right. And Blake? Got a golfer.
Ronaldo.
Swing translates.
Sure. Blake?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Now, you guys, you know, I love this interview right now because you guys picked a non-NBA or non-NFL team and you picked golf and soccer. We've never had it yet. So very good. All right. Will we have an 0-10 team this year in season 19?
Yes. Expos. No, the Marlins are not going to win a game.
Blake?
I don't think so. I think everybody's gonna get at least 1 or 2 wins this year.
Nice. As a commissioner, I love to hear that. You know, it's always my goal to never have a 10-0 team and never have an 0-10 team. It was always I always like the camaraderie and also, you know, the competitive level stays as even as possible. So let's hope not. And who will be the 2021 SWBL champion? BK.
I think it's the Royals' year.
And Blake?
I think I'm going to say Royals too. I think they're due. They're due.
You know, it seems like, you know, every year in the power rankings, the preseason power rankings come out and the number 1 team always has a curse, but I don't think it matters where the Royals fall. It seems like there's some type of curse or cloud hanging over the Royals franchise. Maybe it's because there's 2 Skibbes on it and the world isn't just meant to have that. So maybe next year there's a split going on. Who knows? So, all right, guys, thank you guys for that rapid fire round. We want to thank Andy's Frozen Custard for sponsoring our rapid fire round. So guys, one last question for you. You guys have been around for a long time in this league. You know, the franchise era, the Rockies have been a cornerstone franchise. You are one of 2 franchises in our league that are National Hall of Fame teams. And the Rockies are a Hall of Fame team. You know, 2 championships with you guys. And like I said, 9 out of 9 in playoffs in the franchise era. No other team will ever have that kind of streak going on probably in the history of our league. But Can you believe that next year is season 20? I cannot. Next year, season 20, it's going to be huge. But what do you think is one of the most underrated parts of an SWBL weekend? So kind of think about that, and Blake, we'll start with you. What's like an underrated part to the SWBL? Obviously, the competition is great. The games are always good. It's good to be with your teams. But what's an underrated part for the SWBL that the viewers might not know about?
An underrated part of the weekend is just, I'll say, especially after last year, the games are completely unpredictable, and how you think the season's going to play out before it happens is completely off. And, games are 5 innings. Anybody can beat anybody at any time. There's always upsets. And hopefully, cross fingers, nobody's going to go 0-10 this year.
Yeah.
But just the grind, I guess, the grind of playoffs, and then from playoffs, it's all fun. So
yeah. It's a long weekend for sure, but it's funny. We say a long weekend while you're playing, but I tell you what, it goes by in a blink of an eye. But BK, what do you think is like an underrated part, even the best part, that people might not know about, about an SWBL weekend?
Yeah, I just think it's the competitiveness of it. A bunch of former athletes who've long since retired from their sport of choice, whether it be in high school or in college, and one last chance for just a weekend come out and just be super competitive. And I think that's what makes it so much fun for me.
Yeah, and I tell you what, a lot of people, can look at and say, like, it's not a fast pitch league. Like, this is easy to do. Like, there's so many parts to this league that make it super competitive. And I'm glad you guys talked about that too, because most people, they talk about the camaraderie or the friendships, and all that kind of stuff. And that's the people do know that part. But the competitive level is just, I feel like it's still unmatched by many, many leagues. You could have a fast pitch league that, is a completely separate rule book, and then have our league, but there's still the same amount of competitiveness in both of those leagues, even though we're not throwing as hard as we can or using the big bats or anything like that to our cut balls. It's a level playing field. And like Blake, you said it perfectly. Anybody truly can win. So
if I can add to that,
sure.
It's also really fun that we do this once a year, but every single year it feels like we just did it the past weekend, to where it's like, the best part is seeing everybody and their teams. It's like we haven't seen each other in a year, most of us, but it's just like
pick up where we left off kind of thing.
Pick up where we left off, and it's like 20 years. It's like, didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that next year was season 20, and we are obviously with season 18 and season 19, there's a lot of pent up energy, and people are ready to come out and see the fans and the families and everybody back again. And season 20, hopefully we'll all be back to normal, get the pool rocking again, get everybody back how this weekend is supposed to be with the camaraderie and the competition. So, and guys, I want to thank you guys for joining us again. We want to thank our sponsors too, Logix, INC. We want to thank Ruben Brown sponsoring again for our Strikeout Philanthropy program. We also want to thank Andy's Frozen Custard and our division sponsors, Cardinal Blinds and Shutters, Kedding Eye Center, and Glendale Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. Brian, is there anything else you want to say to the people before we go?
No, I'm ready for season 20, and go Rockies. Thanks for having me, Sam.
And Blake, anything you want to say as captain of the Rockies perennial playoff team? What do you got to say, Blake?
We are we're rearing to go. We're ready for vaccinations, and we're ready for societal normalcy, and to see everybody is the best part. And let's get it going.
Definitely, like Blake said, get vaccinated, stay safe out there, wear your masks until we get all this immunity built up with everybody else too. And we will see you for season 19 coming up very soon. For Brian Kenney and Blake Spencer and the SWBL Rockies, I am Sam Skibbe, Commissioner of the SWBL. We will see you next time for our next SWBL Captain Interview podcast. See you.